Da 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 da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes, get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never popped into one of my lives before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And here on this live show, What's My Good Cheer? For the past 27 weeks, we have been picking a powerful word and delving into that word in different perspectives, in different experiences, different adventures, different feelings in the words too, because it represents these words represent a little something different to me than what they might to you, and they might impact me a little bit differently that they might impact you. I wrote a whole page of powerful words that I thought were powerful, a lot of words. We're only going to grab 54 of those words, and I'm going to put them into a deck because I have found, if nothing else, in these past 20, we're halfway there, people. 27 weeks is the actual work. And I thought I delved into myself. I thought I delved into my experiences, my dynamic family. I delved into the problems that I had. I even resolved a few of those issues, and I've come to terms with a lot of those issues. Even if I wasn't able to resolve them, I thought I was on top of it. And then we started this. I have no idea. It just came to me. We ran with it. But I'm in it now. And I'm only halfway through. And I would hope that, it might not be pertinent that every single person should delve into 54 powerful words to see how they can impact our lives or change the perspectives that maybe we've been living by for decades and decades. Okay, we are picking a new word this week, but before I pick the new word, I've got my book right here all ready to go. I've got my highlighter all ready to go. I just wanted to say, I was watching a documentary, very fascinating documentary. Documentaries were something that me and my father really enjoyed. For the most part, I only liked keeping company with my dad. Maybe I wasn't a big fan, just like I wasn't a big fan of the football and the hockey and the soccer games that my dad took me to because he didn't have any boys, right? But I didn't like necessarily the sports either. Necessarily. I'm not a big sports fan in the least. But I was the biggest fan that you could possibly think of for my father. I just love spending time with my father. And one of those things that me and my father used to do together was to lay on the couch or sit on the couch, and I'd rub his feet and we'd watch documentaries and important people. He was into the politics. He was part of the Russian Canadian Friendship Federation, some kind of fancy title like that. When the Cold War was going on, he was very conscious. My father was a very conscious man. As a child, I didn't recognize it. I didn't actually even recognize any of these ideas that I recognize now until well into my 50s. But when I bumped into it, when I did come across these topics, I instantly recognized my father, right? Had to delve a little bit deeper because I was my father's biggest fan. And today, in sitting and just watching this one documentary, I came to appreciate, some of those gifts. And this gift in particular, the documentary that I'm watching now, it would have been something that I would have let slide. I wouldn't even paid attention. It wouldn't have gotten 5 minutes of my time if it wasn't for my father and recognizing how important it is to get the education in, right? I wasn't somebody who could sit in a school class patiently, right? Taking in a lesson by a teacher. I was too hyper focused on what was going on around me to be able to pay attention to anything. And I think a lot of why I'm sitting here right now having these kind of conversations is the fact that I do find life so interesting, right? And I have to give credit where credit is due. In the documentaries that me and my father shared that I thought I didn't have any interest in, maybe not at that point, right? But like I said, we take these lessons in, and even if we don't know that these lessons are for us, we take them anyway because somewheres down the line we might need that lesson, or we might bump into somebody who might be in need of that lesson. So we don't trash the lessons, right? Sometimes they go on the shelf or the back burner, right? But we never just get rid of them, and we don't bypass them, right? Because we don't understand them and discredit them as nothing. So, one of my favorite documentaries shows on YouTube is a program called Soft White Underbelly, and they are interviews with, I'm not going to say down and out because they're not necessarily down and out. A lot of them have resolved issues and are coming in to speak of their experiences. But I would have to say, for the most part, they are well involved in their problems, and some of them are woke to the ideas and serving themselves, and right, letting their stories be known as the evidence, as the right, like, I was here, this truly happened to me. The documentary I'm watching right now is of a Amish woman. Amish? Was she Amish? Amish? Yes, she was Amish, right? There's Amish, there's Hutterites, there's Mennonites, right? But she was shunned by her community, and she had great many problems from her experience in the colonies, right? And she lived in 5 different colonies, and abuse is everywheres. And just because you have beliefs, it doesn't mean that you are not without sin, that you're not guilty, that you don't have problems, right? A lot of what our movement is in this life that each one of us gets to have, it's not has to have, you get to have. It's in our choices in creating the best human being that we possibly can, that sometimes we do make these missteps, right? And it's in our missteps that we find answers. We find fault in our experiences, and right, we find the courage sometimes to try again with a new perspective and a new experience. And right, and each one of us is going to have a different experience in our life, all depending on who we surround ourselves with, our networks, our friends, our families, our peers, our work comrades, right? Our churches, our political ideas, but all of that is influence. And to be able to watch these documentaries and see people struggling in their own movement forward, and yet not giving up, truly recognizing the experiences they had, having to come up with forgiveness themselves, right? And to be able to make a little bit of heaven on earth, even though to somebody else's eyes it might seem like a no way, not a chance. That's going to be unbearable to me. But right? For some of us, that's all we get, right? That's all we can hope for, because sometimes through our experiences, damage is done, right? And to each one of us, we can say and we can try and we can take in lessons and we can have mentors and we can have people who care about us in our lives. But sometimes, right, when the damage is done, the damage is done. So the only thing that you can do is to accept that and find that little piece of heaven for yourself in the scraps, right, through the rock that has fallen from the mountain, right, through those little bit of experiences that bring smiles across our face, that we can hold these things dear and make a life out of it, right, and make a life out of it. So I wanted to get that off my chest because, lots of times I talk about these really bad experiences that I myself have had. You've probably had, if you're hanging out with me, incredibly sad, difficult experiences that, you beat yourself up because you just can't seem to come out of them. Well, sometimes it's just in that acceptance and that forgiveness and finding that little piece of mind and that little piece of heaven for yourself, right? And that's what I'm doing here, right? Didn't realize at 27 words that I would wake up to, oh my goodness, what did I step into? But each one of us steps into something, right? And we can step into an amazing experience, a difficult experience, a loving experience, a dazzle and amaze experience, and an experience full of grief, even. But each one of those things, experiences, are going to make up who we are. And sometimes there is going to be residue, right? And I would like to think that I am open-minded enough, and sometimes you have to be courageous because, right, that pain shows in people's experiences. It can't help because it has to come to the surface in order to be released. And I would like to hope that each one of us, right, takes that opportunity to find ways to release those things that want to tie us down. Okay, that's all I wanted to say in that soft white underbelly. Like I said, is a program. It's reality. It's real people with real problems. But I do believe that the people who are destined to come to the table with something magnificent are just having a hard time doing that, right? Because of those experiences, right, that they've had. And to be able to creatively come to the table and share a difficult experience that hurt you deep to the core. I think that's the most admirable thing, because they're doing it despite the heartbreak and the pain, because that's the only way that they know that they can find that little piece of heaven for themselves, right? And I wish that for everybody. So, in saying that and in celebration of halfway there, people, we know whatever word we pick today, right? Whatever word, if I got it, yeah, whatever word that we pick today, it's going to be deep this week. I'm pretty certain of it. And maybe in searching out that little piece of heaven for myself, maybe it'll be lighthearted. But whatever it is, here it is. This is the word we're going to be talking about all week. Hi, Nancy. Let me give you guys some waves. Thank you so much for popping into my live. I so appreciate it. I so appreciate it. The word this week Oh my goodness. I knew it. This is a word I've had to Google. I would have to say at least 4 or 5 times before it finally sunk in, right? As to what it is. In my beliefs, that right now we're in a crucial stage of mankind's evolution, right? That we're supposed to make some, right? Big choices, I hope, that would lead us into a better path, that we can have a better shot at creating the best human being we possibly can. Let me have a sip before I reveal the word. Wow, my mind is going 100 miles an hour right now in the different ways that I can bring this to the table. But in first perspectives, this week we got this word synthesis. I had to Google this, and in order to go forward with this word, I'm going to give you the exact same, hopefully it comes up because I have Googled this many times. Okay, it did. It came up right away with Google. If you inquire about it, it keeps it in your top of your inquiries, right? Okay, synthesis. Let's take it from definitions. What is a simple definition of synthesis? The composition. Okay, first I'm going to tell you what I believe in synthesis, and it's very attached to my movement. And it's this idea that I am a combination of many. When I say many, I'm a combination of my father as a human and my father as a soul. My mother is a human and my mother is a soul who created me as a separate human and a separate soul. But I carry traits, just like we get chromosomes, for part of the chromosomes from our mother and part of our chromosomes for our father. I got that. Yay, right? Got it. But I also do believe that I got parts of my father's soul and I got parts of my mother's soul. So in synthesis, it is in the workings of all those parts. It's the ingredients of Cindy. Okay, you guys, let's go into the definition. Hopefully I explained that. But if not, the actual definition will explain it. What is the simple definition of synthesis? The composition or combination of parts or elements so as to form the whole, right? The creation of Cindy, the ingredients of Cindy, right? Now, if you're going to hang out with me this week, I would like if you would take a look at this topic in the ingredients of you, right? And I'm looking at Nancy right now and all those amazing qualities of Nancy. And a lot of those qualities that I know are part of Nancy come from parts of her soul, right? Parts of her experiences, the good experiences and the bad experiences, right? And that creation of Nancy with her train sets and her love for her family, which are, she has a gazillion, what do you call your dolls, Nancy? I don't want to disrespect when I talk about your passion for your, I could call them your kids and the Jack in the Box, 100%. Nancy in all her experiences, all those Jack in the Box experiences, and being able to jump up and still in her creation, right, of heaven on earth, right, to the best of her abilities. And for those of you who don't know, Nancy's in a wheelchair, right? So she's not out and about like I am, physically out and about, but she has created the reborns. Okay, thank you, Nancy. So, Nancy, one of her hobbies is train models, and she has a whole village city. She decorates them during the holidays. She runs her trains. It's a passion, but that passion is one of the ingredients from one of her experiences. I hope you don't mind saying this, right? Nancy's very open woman. She's helped me out in this journey so much, just in the honesty of her own experiences, that it brings me the courage and the bravery sometimes when I'm a little bit shy of talking of my own experiences, right? Or thinking I'm going to offend somebody, or I'm going to bump up with somebody who's going to call me a liar, or somebody who disrespects, because a lot of these experiences in my life are in the experiences of my own dynamic family. So, of course, there are other parties, members of my own family that I talk about, right? And I, in my own sense of respect, and you may think that I am talking uh, without the permissions, but I am, because these permissions are my permissions, because these are my experiences. And if people get tied up in my experiences, well, they have to be part of that conversation, whether it's an amazing conversation, and that's the right, that's the thank yous, and that's the recognition of the people that we admire, the people that we get our lessons from, the people we get our good influence from, like my father, like some of those people that I've chosen online to help me out, right, as I move along, right? And right, my audience and my friends, and Nancy is a friend, right? I consider Nancy a very good friend, and she has hobbies and interests in the creation of her heaven on earth, right? But they come from her own experiences. Nancy used to hop trains. She used to love trains, and she still loved trains, and she carried it into her life. And if she had had the opportunity, maybe she would have been a conductor herself, right? But life dishes out ingredients, and we have to work with what we are given. And she created a heaven on earth, and still has her passion for trains in this experience of hobby of model trains, right? And then I'm not going to presume, because Nancy has never told me. I don't think, I'm trying to think if Nancy ever told me why she had such a passion. Oh, I think I do know Nancy, right? Is the experience of the children that she was a caregiver for. She considered these children like her own children, right? And unfortunately, because of the situation and this that she was in, that right, there was nothing that she could do except hand these children over to authorities, because their mother had just disappeared, and Nancy was taking care of the children. I do believe that the reborns is a hobby that, right, in the creation of heaven on earth. Wow, magnificent, Nancy. That she now has how many children, Nancy? How many children do you have? I think she has over 50 children. And they are her children. And Nancy has found 73. Oh my, oh my goodness. You have a fortune there, if nothing else. You have an absolute fortune there, Nancy. But 73 children, and Nancy is creating, and three more on the way. And she is creating heaven on earth. And she is making the best life for her that she possibly can. And that word synthesis that we've gotten this week is right, sifting through all those ingredients of Cindy and picking and choosing, because I get to pick and choose the ingredients that I work with, the ingredients that I would truly like to be mine, that at this moment might not be, and releasing a lot of those ingredients that I don't want in my life, right? Right? There is no resentment. There is no jealousy in my life. That wasn't an ingredient that was put into my life, but it was an ingredient that rightfully would have been kind of expected through the experiences that I had. But I think a lot of that was because of my own knowing of my unworthiness at the time, that that I didn't think it was a possibility, so it wasn't something that I even considered. I just kind of guess accepted the situation that I was in. Okay, so to get back into this, the composition or combination of parts or elements so as to form a whole. I am forming my whole. I am becoming whole. And whether or not I'll be able to accomplish that in this lifetime, I suspect that I will get another shot, because in my own beliefs, in some of those ingredients that have been added to my recipe, and whether I added those ingredients or those ingredients were added for me, they're there now. And unless I choose to remove those ingredients, they are a part of me. They are in the creation of my heaven on earth. They are in the creation of the most beautiful, tasty pink ice donuts with sprinkles, let's say. Prize winning, blue ribbon, right? In my heaven on earth, in the creation of the best Cindy that I could ever be, right? It is in my hopes that these ingredients that I'm taking off, and in these ingredients that I didn't know that I was privy to, that I was welcome to explore, that I was responsible to take on as my own and never did, through my own choices and through sometimes the projections of others who say, you're not entitled, you're not worthy, you're not welcome. This word synthesis, my first perspective in this word that we're going to talk about all this week, each one of us gets to have a moment where we take a look at our lives and take a look at those ingredients in our lives and how they've affected us and how they still affect us in this moment. And at any moment, whether you're 20 years old, 30 years old, 40, 50, 60, 70, if you're 100 years old, it's never too late to start, right? For my own beliefs, I do believe that I'll get another opportunity, even in the next life, right? And if not Cindy herself, Cindy's not coming back, but there are parts of me that I do believe that I've woken up and woken up to 27 words so far. You guys, synthesis is the word this week. I'm looking forward to seeing how I come into the topic tomorrow. Simpson donut. Yeah. Oh, yes, it is a Simpson donut, isn't it? I actually have a sprinkled donut. It's made of foam, but I keep it in my desk all the time. I'm not going to bother looking for it right now, but I keep it just to remind me, right? It is a process for all of us, and each one of us gets to pick and choose, right? Get to pick and choose. And if there are parts of you that you don't like, if there are parts of you that you don't appreciate, if there are parts of you that remind you of somebody else and you don't like them, right? Get rid of them, right? 80, 90, 100 years old, it's never too late to start, right? I run with the entrepreneurs. I know Colonel Sanders was in his 70s when he started his Kentucky Fried Chicken. I don't want to be my 70s. Let's see if we can make this happen in our 60s. But it's up to me, and it's going to be in my choices and in the recognition of the missteps, recognition of the characters in my life, all the characters in my life, because each one of them have added to my story, added into the makeup of who I am. And it's up to me whether or not to delve into them and, right, do a little bit of rearranging, a little bit of cleaning house, or to cling on to them even more, right? Right? To keep reminding myself what an amazing influencer my father was, right? I love documentaries, all kinds of documentaries, and I don't think I would have stumbled on to any of this if it wasn't for that introduction. Okay, you guys. Right? But oh my goodness, I think this word synthesis, right? You are the most adapt and conquer kind of woman I think I have ever met. In truth, Nancy, I know your experiences. If you, Nancy has actually shared and been interviewed by me in these experiences, and some of you have been privy to her story and know her story. And she is an amazing contribution, an amazing asset to my brand. And I know Nancy's going to be around for a very long time. And I hope that I can do this word synthesis justice. Synthesis. Who would have thought that this was a powerful word, that this was going to be my 27th word? I'm not surprised. I am not surprised, not in the least. And it just compounds the believability of what I'm doing because of the topics that I've been into in the past couple of weeks. You guys, that's my good cheer. And we'll see each other tomorrow. Have a great night. Wow.